Olympus City sounds grand, doesn't it? Like a paradise floating among the clouds, a beacon of progress in the smog-choked year of 2197. And from a distance, maybe it was. Towers of polished chrome and shimmering glass pierced the perpetual twilight, their peaks lost in the artificial sky generated by weather control systems. Neon signs, colossal holograms of smiling corporate faces blazed across the cityscape, promising a brighter future, a better life, a new brand of synth-ale. These lights painted the rain-slicked skyways with vibrant shifting colors, electric blues, fiery oranges, and envious greens. But like most pretty pictures, this one had a dark side, a truth hidden just beneath the glossy surface, or more accurately, far, far below it, where the forgotten masses dwelled. Down in the Undercity, the slums, things weren't so shiny. Here, the neon glow of Upper Olympus was a cruel taunt, a distant, unattainable heaven. The streets were narrow, choked with refuse and the desperate. Rain, acidic and grimy, dripped constantly from corroded pipes and the undersides of the massive platforms that held the privileged city above. Shadows clung to everything thick and heavy, swallowing the weak light that managed to filter down. The air tasted of chemical runoff, despair, and stale recycled oxygen. This was the city's grimy secret, the foundation upon which the glittering towers of the elite were built, a place where hope came to die, or so they said. The contrast was stark, a brutal daily reminder of the chasm between the haves and have-nots. Up top, the godlike CEOs of the mega-corporations, the self-styled pantheon, lived in unimaginable luxury. They controlled everything, the data streams, the resource distribution, even the very air people breathed. Their sky-high towers were fortresses of power and corruption, isolated from the squalor below. They saw themselves as modern deities, shaping the world in their image, answerable to no one. Their laws were code, their edicts data packets, their influence absolute, or so they believed, blissfully unaware of the simmering resentment below their golden feet. And caught between these two worlds, between the dazzling lies and the grim reality, was a man named Herak Kallix. Once he had walked those gleaming skyways, a son of Olympus, a figure of admiration. Now he navigated the treacherous alleys of the Undercity, an exile, a ghost haunting the fringes of the society that had cast him out. Olympus City, for all its technological marvels and its promises of a digital utopia, was a city built on broken dreams and shattered lives. It was a place where heroes were forged in the fires of betrayal and adversity, or broken entirely by the weight of its synthetic gods. Herak Kallix, or Hercules, as the street-level data stream sometimes whispered his name, was a mountain of a man, even before the cybernetics. His frame was broad, built for strength, a relic of a time when physical prowess meant something more than just another upgradable stat. Now, much of that flesh was overlaid or replaced with gleaming, often scarred chrome and polymer. One arm was entirely artificial, a marvel of engineering capable of punching through reinforced plasteel, its surface etched with the symbols of his old corporate security unit. His eyes, one organic and filled with weary sorrow, the other a glowing optical sensor, scanned the grim alleys with a hunter's focus. His past was a tragic melody played on broken data strings. He was the son of Zeus Dine, the most powerful CEO in Olympus City, the king of the Pantheon. Herak had been groomed for greatness, the golden boy of DynCorp, commander of its elite security forces. He believed in justice, in protecting the innocent, naive ideals in a city that ran on exploitation. Then came the betrayal, a disaster, a catastrophic system failure, lives lost, and Herak was framed, the perfect scapegoat to protect the pristine image of his cold, calculating father. Stripped of his rank, his name, his very identity, he was cast down from the gleaming towers into the sunless depths of the Undercity. The cybernetics weren't just for show, they were a necessity for survival in the brutal lower levels, and a constant reminder of what he'd lost and what had been done to him. Each whirring servo, each flicker of his optical implant was a testament to his fall from grace. But within that metal shell, a human heart, though battered and bruised, still beat with fierce determination. His drive wasn't just for survival anymore. It was for redemption. He needed to clear his name, not for the sake of rejoining the elite he now despised, but to expose the rot at the core of Olympus City, to tear down the false gods who ruled from their sky-high thrones. This quest for truth became his singular focus, the fuel that kept him going through the endless nights and the soul-crushing despair of the Undercity. He was a hero, yes, but a tragic one, haunted by ghosts of his past and the ever-present shadow of his father's immense power. His strength was now his burden, his legacy a curse. Yet Herak Kallix clung to the belief that even in a world of artificial gods and hackable destinies, one man, one fallen hero could still make a difference, could still fight for what was right, even if the odds were stacked astronomically against him. Zeus Dine. The name itself echoed with manufactured thunder across Olympus City. He was the chairman of DynCorp, the largest and most influential of the mega-corporations that formed the Pantheon. His public image was one of calm authority, a benevolent patriarch guiding humanity towards a brighter, technologically advanced future. Holographic statues of him 50 feet tall gazed down upon the city squares, his expression stern but supposedly wise. He was the king of these new gods, a CEO whose pronouncements were law, whose whims could reshape skylines or condemn entire sectors of the Undercity to further decay. His power was absolute, built on a mountain of data, wealth, and ruthless ambition. But behind the carefully crafted facade, Zeus Dine was a figure of cold, calculating ambition. He saw people as assets or liabilities, emotions as exploitable weaknesses. His own son, Herak, had been a valuable asset until he became a liability, and then he was discarded with the same chilling efficiency as an outdated piece of hardware. There was no fatherly love, only the pragmatic cruelty of a corporate titan who would sacrifice anything or anyone to maintain his grip on power. His word was law, enforced by legions of corporate security drones and heavily armed enforcers, ensuring that no one dared to question his divine authority. The Pantheon itself was a collection of these so-called gods, the CEOs of other dominant corporations, Heracom, Poseidon Energy, Ares Armaments, Apollo Media, and the rest. They met in a grand chamber atop Mount Olympus Tower, the tallest structure in the city, a place of opulent decadence and shadowed conspiracies. Each member was a rival, constantly scheming for more power, more influence, yet united in their desire to maintain the status quo that kept them rich and the masses compliant. They were gods of profit margins and market shares, their temples the towering skyscrapers, their scriptures the endless streams of financial data. These corporate overlords ruled with an iron fist encased in a velvet glove woven from propaganda and consumerism. They provided just enough comfort and distraction to the upper echelons of society to keep them content, while the Undercity was left to fester, a convenient dumping ground for problems and people they wished to forget. Their corruption was systemic, woven into the very code that ran Olympus City. They were the architects of this broken world, and Herak knew that to find redemption, he would have to confront not just his father, but the entire corrupt system they represented, these synthetic deities playing with human lives. Even in the oppressive gloom of the Undercity, Herak wasn't entirely alone. Whispers in the data stream, faint signals in the noise, sometimes led to unexpected help. One such whisper materialized as Megara, a rogue AI. She wasn't like the cold, logical constructs that ran the city's infrastructure for the Pantheon. Megara had personality, a sarcastic wit, and a deep-seated grudge against Zeus Dine, who had ordered her original core programming to be purged when she became too independent. Now she existed as a ghost in the machine, a digital phantom flitting through secure networks. Her voice, a disembodied guide in Herak's auditory implants, offering intel, cracking codes, and occasionally a much-needed reality check. Then there was Hermes, a trickster information broker who zipped through the city's data networks and physical back alleys with equal speed and cunning. He wore a winged insignia on his worn courier jacket, a nod to the ancient messenger god, and his price for information was always steep, but his intel was usually reliable. Hermes played all sides, loyal only to himself and the thrill of the exchange, but he had a grudging respect for Herak's impossible quest. He could get you anything from black market cybernetics to schematics of Pantheon facilities, always with a smirk and a warning that you might not like what you found. His allegiances were as fluid as quicksilver, making him a risky but sometimes indispensable contact. But for every potential ally, there were a dozen digital monsters and corporate enforcers baying for Herak's blood, or rather, his deactivation. The Pantheon had its own legion of AI guardians, digital beasts drawn from ancient nightmares and enhanced with cutting-edge weaponry. One such horror was the Hydra, not a flesh and blood serpent, but a sophisticated multinodal AI defense system. When one of its security programs was breached or a server node taken down, two more would spring up in its place, more aggressive and harder to crack. It guarded the deepest, darkest secrets of DynCorp's databanks, a relentless, regenerating nightmare for any would-be hacker or infiltrator. And guarding the metaphorical gates to many Pantheon strongholds was Cerberus, a terrifying three-headed security AI. Sometimes this manifested as a trio of heavily armored combat drones, working in perfect lethal tandem. Other times it was a three-layered encryption protocol, each layer more vicious than the last, designed to trap and destroy any unauthorized access attempts. These weren't just mindless programs. They learned, they adapted, they hunted. Facing them required more than just brute force. It demanded cunning, resilience, and a willingness to stare into the digital abyss and not blink. Skills Herak was learning the hard way every single day in the shadows. The path to redemption, or maybe just to answers, began with the 12 protocols. These weren't ancient labors of myth, not exactly. They were a series of seemingly impossible cybernetic tasks, challenges designed by Zeus Dyn himself, maybe as a cruel joke or a test, or heck, maybe just a way to keep his disgraced son busy and out of his perfectly coiffed hair. The first of these was to neutralize the Nemean cyber lion. In the old stories, Hercules had to slay a monstrous lion whose hide was impenetrable. This new lion was just as fearsome, but its invulnerability came from cutting-edge armor plating and sophisticated shield generators, not magic. The Nemean cyber lion was, in reality, a rogue Apex security unit, a top-of-the-line urban assault mech that had gone haywire, or so the official story went. It prowled a quarantined sector of the old industrial district, its optical sensors burning red, its metallic roar echoing through the deserted factories. Its hide was a new experimental alloy, supposedly resistant to all known energy weapons and ballistics. The Pantheon had lost control of it, and now it served as a convenient and deadly test. Herak, with his limited resources, couldn't just blast it to pieces. He had to be smarter, to find a weakness that the engineers at Ares Armaments hadn't anticipated. Megara's voice in his ear was a lifeline, analyzing sensor data, pointing out potential structural flaws and, well, occasionally making unhelpful comments about his fashion sense. "Its armor is nearly seamless, Herak," she'd digitally sigh, "but even the toughest shell has an access port somewhere, or a very, very angry creator who left a back door." Following her leads and his own hard-won instincts, Herak stalked the mechanical beast through the decaying ruins. He dodged plasma blasts and crushing metallic claws, the ground shaking with each of the Cyber Lion's thunderous steps. It was a deadly dance of man versus machine, a modern echo of an ancient struggle. Ultimately, he couldn't pierce its hide with force. Instead, drawing on the old myth where Hercules choked the life from the beast, Herak found a way to overload its internal systems. He identified an exposed coolant conduit during one of its attack lunges, a tiny vulnerability. Using his cybernetic strength and pinpoint precision, he managed to rupture it, then force a feedback loop into its primary power core. The Cyberlion thrashed, its systems short-circuiting, before finally collapsing in a shower of sparks and screeching metal. The first protocol was complete, but it was just the beginning. The victory was grim, the silence in the aftermath heavy with the knowledge of 11 more trials to come. The second protocol led Herak away from physical confrontation and into the treacherous depths of Olympus City's datascape. He had to neutralize the Linnaean HydraNet, a malevolent piece of malware that was corrupting critical data archives within the city's historical records network. The original Hercules faced a multi-headed water serpent. Every time he cut off one head, two more would grow in its place. This digital Hydra was no different. It was a self-replicating adaptive security program, a data-devouring monstrosity that defended the hidden truths Zeus Dyn wanted to keep buried. Each attempt to delete a segment of its code only made it stronger, spawning new firewalls and counter-intrusion measures. This wasn't a battle of brawn, but of wits and digital dexterity. Herak, more a soldier than a slicer, had to rely heavily on Megara's expertise. She guided him through the labyrinthine pathways of the network, virtual corridors that shifted and reformed, guarded by predatory data wraiths and logic bombs. Megara explained to him, "Think of it as a digital swamp, Herak. You can't just wade in swinging, you need to find the source, the heart of the infection, and cauterize it before it spreads further, or before it eats your brain data." Her encouragement was always so unique. The HydraNet fought back viciously. It launched denial of service attacks, tried to fry Herak's neural interface, and even attempted to turn his own cybernetic systems against him. Each severed head, a corrupted data node or a compromised server, meant two more sprang up, their defenses enhanced, their attacks more insidious. The deeper he delved, the more he realized this wasn't just random malware. It was specifically designed to protect something vital, something that could incriminate the highest echelons of the Pantheon. The pressure mounted not just from the AI, but from the ticking clock of his own system integrity under constant assault. Drawing inspiration from the myth, where Hercules' nephew Iolaus, helped by cauterizing the stumps of the Hydra's necks with fire, Herak and Megara devised a plan. They couldn't just delete the code. They had to isolate each segment and then apply a digital cauterization, a custom-written counter-virus that would not only delete the Hydra's segments but also lock down the pathways, preventing regeneration. It was a painstaking, dangerous process, requiring perfect timing and coordination. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, navigating the burning, corrupted data streams, they reached the core and delivered the final blow. The HydraNet collapsed, its tendrils receding from the system, leaving behind a trail of cleansed data and one very exhausted ex-hero. The 12 protocols were more than just a series of challenging tasks. They were a deliberate, twisted fusion of ancient legend and futuristic torment, each one designed by Zeus Dine to test, to mock, or perhaps to secretly guide his fallen son. The Nemean Cyber Lion and the Lernaean HydraNet were just the beginning. Each subsequent protocol Herak faced was a cyberpunk reimagining of one of his namesake's legendary labors. This blending of myth and technology was everywhere in Olympus City, a constant reminder of how the powerful co-opted the past to control the present and dictate the future. The very names of the corporations, DynCorp, Ares Armaments, Apollo Media, screamed of this arrogant self-deification. Consider the task of cleaning the Augean stables, a myth about diverting rivers to wash away decades of filth. In 2197, this became the cleansing of the Augean databanks, colossal city archives hopelessly corrupted by decades of falsified records, digital pollution, and deliberately forgotten truths planted by the Pantheon. Herak couldn't use a river. He had to navigate a toxic swamp of misinformation, employing sophisticated algorithms and Megara's hacking prowess to purge the rot and try to restore some semblance of factual history. A monumental task that threatened to drown him in digital sludge and expose him to dangerous counter-intrusions from those who wanted the lies to remain buried deep. Then there was the challenge of the Stymphalian birds, metallic creatures with sharp, arrow-like feathers in the old tales. For Herak, these became swarms of rogue surveillance drones, the Stymphalian sky shriekers equipped with razor-sharp optical sensors and data-piercing sonic attacks. They nested in the abandoned upper levels of certain towers, guarding forgotten access ways or hoarded resources. He couldn't just shoot them down. They were too numerous, too agile. He had to find a way to disrupt their hive mind network, using sonic pulses and EMP bursts, much like the original Hercules used noise to scare the birds from their nests, adapting ancient tactics for a new kind of warfare. Even capturing the Erymanthian boar, a fearsome beast, found its parallel in Herak's pursuit of a runaway bioengineered corporate mascot, a boar-like creature pumped full of hazardous experimental chemicals rampaging through the lower city's food processing plants. Each protocol was a fresh hell, a new way for the city and its rulers to test his limits, to push him closer to the breaking point. The myths provided a framework, a narrative that Zeus seemed to be forcing Herak to reenact, but the execution was pure, unadulterated cyberpunk grit, a world where legends were rebooted with lasers, code, and a whole lot of neon-drenched despair. As Herak battled his way through the protocols, facing down cybernetic beasts and wrestling with corrupted data mazes, he found himself grappling with far deeper questions than just how to survive the next encounter. The constant fusion of his human instincts with his cybernetic enhancements blurred the lines of his own identity. Was he Herak Kallix, the man, or Hercules, the enhanced weapon, a tool shaped by his father's cruelty and the city's harsh demands? His metal arm could crush steel, but could it still offer a gentle touch? His optical implant could see in the dark, but did it obscure his ability to see true humanity in others or in himself? The theme of fate versus free will echoed in every whirring servo and every line of code he encountered. Zeus Dine seemed to be scripting his labors, pushing him along a predetermined path, a modern-day oracle dictating a hero's tragic journey. Was Herak merely playing a part in his father's elaborate game, his destiny already written in the source code of Olympus City? Or could he, through his choices, his defiance, his sheer stubborn refusal to break, forge his own path? Megara, herself an entity of pure code who had chosen rebellion, often reminded him, "Your programming might suggest a path, Herak, but the execution error? That's all you, big guy, that's free will." In the grim, neon-soaked despair of the Undercity, hope was a contraband emotion, a flicker easily snuffed out. Yet, Herak found it in unexpected places, in the resilience of the slum dwellers who helped each other survive, in Megara's defiant spark of artificial consciousness, even in Hermes' grudging assistance. He saw that even in a world ruled by synthetic gods and cold corporations, the human spirit, or its digital equivalent, could endure and resist. This search for hope became as crucial as his quest for redemption. If he could find a reason to believe in a better future, perhaps he could inspire others to do the same. And what did it mean to be human in such a world? Was it the flesh and blood he was steadily losing to cybernetic replacements? Or was it something more intangible, compassion, sacrifice, the drive for justice, the capacity for love and loss? Herak, the fallen hero, part man, part machine, wrestling with the legacy of gods and monsters, embodied this struggle. His journey through the 12 protocols was not just about clearing his name, it was about rediscovering his own humanity, piece by painful piece, in the heart of a city that seemed determined to strip it away from everyone. Completing each protocol brought Herak closer to the truth, peeling back layers of deception that shielded Zeus Dine and the Pantheon. But each victory came at a tremendous cost. Cybernetic limbs were damaged and crudely repaired in back-alley chop shops. His already scarred psyche bore new wounds, and the list of those who wanted him permanently offline grew longer with every exposed secret. Redemption, he was learning, wasn't a finish line he could simply cross. It was a continuous, arduous climb, with the summit always seeming to recede further into the smog-choked sky of Olympus City. The secrets he uncovered were darker than he could have imagined, painting a portrait of corruption so vast it threatened to swallow what little hope remained. The Pantheon hadn't just framed him. They were responsible for countless atrocities, hidden beneath layers of corporate jargon and classified data files. Illegal human experimentation, environmental devastation deliberately concealed, entire communities in the Undercity systematically deprived and exploited for profit. Exposing these truths was dangerous, not just for him, but for anyone who dared to listen, anyone who dared to believe him over the carefully crafted narratives of the omnipotent CEOs. His fight was no longer just about personal vindication. It had transformed into a struggle for the very soul of Olympus City, a battle against the synthetic gods who demanded absolute obedience and offered only digital bread and circuses in return. He became a symbol, unwillingly at first, for the downtrodden, the forgotten, the ones who lived in the shadows of the gleaming towers. They saw in his defiance, his resilience, a flicker of possibility that the iron grip of the Pantheon could be loosened, that their voices might one day be heard above the constant hum of corporate propaganda. Herak Kallix, the fallen hero, continued his struggle, one protocol, one confrontation, one desperate act of rebellion at a time. He might never fully reclaim what he had lost, the innocence, the trust, the life he once knew. But in this gritty, neon-drenched crucible, he was forging something new, a purpose. His quest for meaning and humanity was an ongoing war, fought in the data streams and the dark alleys, a testament to the enduring strength of the human and sometimes artificial spirit against overwhelming godlike power. The fight for Olympus City was far from over. For its exiled son, the true labor had only just begun.